Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Joe Jablecki again, and we're going to talk some more about COVID, this time about testing. Now, I don't know if you've heard this lately on television or radio, but we hear here that there's a lot of increase in the number of COVID-19 cases since the reopening began. But is that really the truth? Is that so? Well, let's take a little look at that. Here in San Antonio, which is where I live, our mayor was recently on the television show 60 Minutes, and he said that San Antonio is experiencing a increase in transmission as a result of recent activities, specifically the reopening of the economy. He doesn't mention anything about the riots that we had in association with the peaceful demonstrations. So, is what he said accurate? Well, I don't think so. Bexar County does report a lot of data on their COVID-19 testing, hospitalizations, things of that nature. And as you can see by this chart below, that from April 20th when they started their, or April 10th rather, when they started their data collection to present date, there has been a slight uptick at the end, but the trend line is stable at 5%. So, what if, by chance, he didn't mean actual increase in cases, but he meant to say a number of hospitalizations? Well, again, there's an uptick at the end, but as you can see here, there's actually a downward, slightly downward trend in the number of hospitalizations over time. Now, we can't conclude anything yet because it's just a week. We're talking about a week. So we have to see what happens over the course of time, whether this goes back down again and continues to submit a downward trend. So let's look at the fluctuation that occurs over time. In terms of percent change, it's very erratic, and up and down, up and down, up and down. Also, hospitalizations is somewhat erratic, up and down, up and down. But again, over time here in San Antonio, there's a downward trend. Now today, which here in San Antonio or Texas, our governor is about to get on television and he's going to talk about hospitalizations, and he's going to I don't know what he's going to say, but he's probably going to say they're going up. Now here in Texas, greater than 80% of everyone that tests positive on a COVID-19 test gets admitted to the hospital. Now, why is that? Well, here's how it goes here in Texas and probably everywhere in the United States. So first thing that happens is you test positive and you worry about your family, those you've been around. You hope you haven't infected anyone. But the next thing that happens is the wheels of the government get in gear, and you'll get calls from the health department, calls from your doctor, calls from everybody, calls from the news, wanting to know what's going on, what you're going to do. Then you'll actually get a visit from the police, and they'll say, well, we just want to know how you're doing, how your health is, and they're going to encourage you to go to the hospital. And then your neighbors, your family, your friends, they all start worrying, so you finally go to the hospital and allow yourself to be admitted. So when 80% or more of anyone being tested positive gets admitted to the hospital, then of course the number of hospitalizations will absolutely go up. So here we see hospitalizations and in the red, in the blue is positive tests daily, and they correspond nearly perfectly. Now, what about the positivity rate, the actual number of positives per the amount being tested? And that's how this stuff ought to be actually reported to us, but it's not. You can see here that over time, this is Texas, the positivity rate continues to go down. So how does this happen? Well, let's take an example and use some pretty simple numbers to explain it all. So at the beginning of this COVID-19 fiasco, we had 100 people tested each day with 10 testing positive, and then out of that 10, 9 got admitted to the hospital. So what we have is a 10% positivity rate and a 9% hospitalization rate. Well, then about midway through, we're up to 1,000, testing gets better, up to 1,000 people a day tested, with 100 people testing positive and 90 going to the hospital. So everybody goes nuts saying, oh my God, we've gone from 9 to 90, this is terrible. But in truth, the positivity rate's still just 10%, staying the same, and the hospital's rate is 9%, staying the same. Then we get to now, and now we're testing 25,000 people a day with 25,000 testing positive, or 2,500 testing positive, and 2,250 being admitted to the hospital. Now everybody gets real excited because now we're up to 2,250 admitted to the hospital each day in the state of Texas. But again, nothing's really changed. We're still only at 10% for positivity and still only at 9% for hospitalization. Nothing's different. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that, of course, the entire United States, nothing's really bad. Now, this is all the numbers in the United States on the testing and reopening, and as you can see, it's actually going down slightly over time. Now, what has to happen, or what should happen, and what would be nice to happen, is if the media would finally say that when you're talking about COVID-19, then, or anything, that they report their data in the form of cases per 100,000 tested, hospitalizations per 100,000 cases. If they do that, everybody wouldn't get all upset and scared. Thank you for your time.